So Shane Button here, joined with Tyler Joe Miller, who has had, I think it's safe to say, a heck of a year, heck of the last couple of years, really. And the new
Yeah.
single, "What Good Is a Memory." I guess the best way to describe it is an and I can't even say the word, anthemic breakup song. There we go. Would that be a good classification of it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's definitely like one of the more angsty tunes that I've put out, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there seems to be this resurgence, not a resurgence, but a surgence of alti country, these days, even maybe a little more, grungy, if you will, and the Jelly Rolls and the Bailey Zimmermans. But I think this kind of teeters on
Yeah.
that line a little bit. It's got, like you said, that angst to it, which I think is great. It's something that I think it's been missing from country, up until the last, year, 2 years or so. And it's great to get that back. We're getting back the 90s feel with a lot of, fiddles and banjos, and we're getting
Yeah.
this stuff. It's a real good turn for country the last couple of years. I love it.
Yeah, totally. I think there's once Nickelback started on the scene a little bit in country music. People are like, "Oh yeah, let's bring those electric guitars back in." And
Hey, I mean, if
yeah,
Nickelback can play Boots and Hearts, right? There you go.
it ain't the worst thing.
No,
I'm a
it's
huge
not.
Nickelback fan.
Perfect. It's funny because 15 years ago, how many people were openly saying they were Nickelback fans, right? It was so taboo to admit to, but I think they've kind of crossed that threshold where it's cool to like Nickelback again, right?
Yeah, and I think people finally were like, "Why are we supposed to hate them?"
Right?
You
I
know,
know.
like it was this weird generational thing that it was like there's a whole generation that was like, we're told we're supposed to hate on them, so
I
that's
know.
just why we do. And then they listen to the songs and they like them.
Well, I always found it hilarious. Oh, all the songs sound the same. No, Chad Kroger sounds like Chad Kroger, but
Yeah, it's
that's
that's
it.
just his voice.
That's it. Which is a good thing. You want the singer to sound like the singer. There's got to be, anyways. I could go on a whole tangent
Yeah.
that. But we're here to talk about you and your single, not Nickelback. So, "What Good Is the Memory?" Of course. I mean, there's four writers on the song. I've seemed to notice that four people seems to be that sweet spot. There seems to be a lot of songs. A lot of the big hits have like four people writing it. Is that the sweet spot? Do you think? Is that too many? Is that not enough? What do you find is the right number of people working on a song, or is there?
That's a good question. Yeah, like the what I mostly have done is it's mostly been three-way writes. And that's like pretty standard. But I feel like, yeah, these days there is like more of the four, five people in the room sort of thing. But I think after four, there's just too many opinions. Like I don't know how they get it done and like everybody approves of everything. Like I don't know how it seems like just too many heads in the room. But three or four is definitely good. Like especially for this one, the other writers were Kelly Archer and Gordy Sampson and Dylan Guthrow and all of them are just really great writers and have a lot of great ideas. And so uh, the song pretty well wrote itself. Like it was pretty easy for us to all work together, which is also just a really great combination because you can be in the rooms that it's like you're not really vibing with what the other people are doing, and it's like it'll take you 4 or 5 hours to finish the song, and it's
Right.
like you could still come up with a song that you don't really like. Where this one, I think it was a pretty quick write, and we're all really happy with how it turned out. And but yeah, I'd say like three or four people's is the sweet spot. Two can be a bit hard if like sometimes if you're vibing with the person, great. Then it's awesome, and you're both getting bigger splits. But I like having more ideas floating around in the room, and it's a lot easier when you have 3 to 4 people.
I guess if there's three or maybe five is a good. You've got that odd number, so there's always a veto, right? Instead of a deadlock on something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Do you go into these sessions, like for this song specifically? Did you go into this session knowing this is going to be a song for you, or did you just go in to write and kind of feel that vibe out afterwards? That, hey, I think I'm going to cut this song, or let's pitch this to somebody else, or give it to the label to pitch, or how do you, what for this song specifically? What was the beginning like there?
Yeah, I think like a lot of the time I'll be most like the only artist in the room. And so it's kind of assumed that it's like if we're writing it's for you. And
Right.
so it was kind of expected that it's like if we're coming up with a great song, then I'll probably end up cutting it. But we're always open to like if we think that the song is really great and it would work for somebody else, or maybe it's not really my style, like, but it's still a really great song and somebody else could do it. 100% we're down to pitching that song. Um, but yeah, and sometimes that's happened. And but you know, like the last song I put out was called Broken Man, and like that one got pitched the day that it got put into the other guys like publishers and stuff, and it got put on hold by an American artist and
Right.
that sort of thing. But then it didn't get cut, so I ended up being like, well, why don't I just release it then?
Right.
And so yeah, that
Yeah.
for sure happened. And it's funny because that one I was like, I love the song. I love the song. I want to do it. And then it got put on hold by somebody else, and I was like, all right, I'll let go of it. I'll let go of it.
Right.
But what good is a memory? When we finished it, it just got stuck in my head. I loved the idea of it. I loved it. I just thought it was really catchy, and Dylan made up the demo for it, and it sounded awesome. And I just couldn't stop listening to it. And so it was like, I normally don't listen to my music a whole lot,
Right. Yeah,
and
I can see that. Don't worry.
seems a bit egotistical. But yeah, this one I was like, man, I can't get this one out of my head. And so yeah, I was like, I definitely have to do this one. But yeah, we're always open to pitching it if we don't think that we're gonna end up cutting it.
So with this one, you said right off the bat you knew you were cutting it, and you wanted to cut Broken Man initially and almost couldn't. Did you have to make the pitch off the bat? Hey, I know I'm doing this one, or did you have to wait for it not to get put on hold elsewhere, like you had to do with Broken Man?
Well, I got the demo for Broken Man the same like night that we wrote it. Like Blake Bollinger was one of the writers, and he did up the demo really fast and sent it over. And while I was having like a dinner meeting with some people, I like get this demo sent to me, and I was like snuck away and kind of listened to it, and I like gave it to my manager at the time, and I was like, "You need to listen to the song." And then I showed my producer on the way home, and I was like, "I think this song is bigger than me." Like, you know, I love the song and I love the concept of it, but like if somebody else wants to cut it like down here, like I'm totally open to like that's the dream is a US artist right cutting one of your songs. And then the next day I'm in a write and I get an email, and I said like if this wants to get picked up by somebody, 100% give it over. Like I'm totally down for pitching it. Uh this one didn't have to and that song with like within 12 hours was like put on hold, and it was like,
Wow.
all right, that one was meant for that to happen. And then it ended up coming back to me, which is it's a funny journey how these songs can, you know, come back to you sometimes. But with what good is a memory, I think it was just assumed that it was like I love this one and I will cut this. And so there was no like, hey, don't be pitching this to anybody. Like I think it's pretty much a done deal when you've got an artist in the room, and you know the
Yeah.
song. I brought up the title and the idea and stuff, so obviously I liked it. And then once we finished it, you know, I was super stoked about it, and so there's a pretty good chance that that artist is going to cut it if they like the song. And yeah,
Fair.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't have to be like, don't share this around.
All right. So you said you came up with the title and some of that kind of stuff. So, when you get four people in a room and you're writing a breakup song, I'm sure everyone's got some sort of breakup story that comes to the table, with any
Yeah.
whatever the theme of the song might be. But is there one person's story that kind of out of the four of you that stuck out that, well, that's the one we're focusing on. That's where the inspiration came from. You don't have to tell me who or what, but if it's yours and you want to share, cool. But I'm curious to know how you whittle all that down. Do you piece it together from different parts of different stories, or how'd you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do piece it together a little bit. It's not just like specifically about one experience, but yeah, I know for myself, like I'll dig into the past of like, all right, I remember how I felt in this relationship or in this breakup and that sort of thing. And so I know like within my experience, I brought up, a certain relationship that it was like, hey, I was a wreck after this happened, and I wanted to get rid of the memories, but I couldn't, and so the good ones were the ones that were holding me back from moving on, and all that stuff. And so for myself, it was like I had my own experience that I was writing from, and able to like dig up into the past and stuff, and uh, you know, try to do something with it. But yeah, it was kind of like there wasn't a specific situation that we were writing about, but all of us kind of having our own experiences. It's like, let's make this new story with all of our experiences.
As a person having to sing it, do you have to kind of reconcile with, okay, these aren't necessarily things that I experienced. This verse isn't me, regardless of what the song is. I didn't experience this verse, but I did that verse. Is it hard to sing, the inexperienced verse with the passion of the one that you can relate to more? Is there like, a little bit of a challenge there when it comes to recording it in the studio? Because obviously you want to sound, the passion's got to come through. You got to feel the lyrics, right? That's kind of, in my opinion, that's what makes or breaks a song from being good to great, is when you can hear that passion coming through, and that you're like, that person lived this. How do you do that when it's not necessarily your exact experience? What was your trick or tip to do that in the studio?
Yeah, I think most of the stuff that I sing about is most like stuff that I've gone through or I've experienced. But I think the beauty about country music is like it's all just about telling stories, and whether you're telling your story or you're telling somebody else's, both of them sell. And I think like I really love also telling stories that maybe I didn't go through it, but I know that somebody else did, and that they're going to relate to it. And so I don't know if I really have a trick about how to do it. It's just more of I love telling stories. And like I used to want to be like before I wanted to be a musician, I wanted to be an actor. That was like my dream.
Okay.
And so there's probably a little bit of that, like, I can pretend to go through this, or I can
Yeah.
pretend to be this person or whatever it is. And so, yeah, it's funny because like there's some lines too that like just sound good or work good in the song. Like one of my last song, Broken Man, there's a line in it that says, on the second shelf, like my old man, you'll find a half a fifth behind a Folgers can. And my dad heard the song, and my dad was like, hey, what about that Broken Man song? And I was like, what about it? And he's like, I don't drink Folgers. He's like, it should have been behind a Kirkland can or something. But it's like, I'm like, my dad, like he thankfully never, like he wasn't an alcoholic. He hadn't had issues with alcohol and stuff like that. But it was like,
Right.
I know that somebody else probably went through something like this. And so
Yeah.
I could tell somebody else's story, uh,
Sure. Sure.
at my dad's expense.
And you just say, Dad, I'm trying to get that Folger sponsorship. That's all,
Exactly. Yeah. Best part of waking up.
I mean, you've been on quite the run, right? 2 number 1s, 8 top 10s now. It's how many awards have you been up for? Juno nominated, which must have been a pretty big deal, right? When that one came through.
Crazy, man. I never thought I would be getting a Juno nomination. And my manager at the time was like, called me. I was like, get on FaceTime. I was like, I can't, I'm driving. She's like, pull over. And so I did. She's like, yeah, you got a Juno nomination. I was like, what? So yeah, that was just crazy. That was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. No kidding. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're doing a whole bunch of interviews through the day today, so we've been chatting a little over. I think what we're supposed to, but I could talk to you forever. But good luck with the song. It's fantastic. Like I said, anthemic. I got it right this time. An anthemic breakup song, which it'll resonate for sure. And to your point, it's catchy. It'll get stuck. It'll get stuck in your head too. So I think everyone's gonna love this song if they haven't heard it already.
Yeah, thanks, man. I sure hope so. And yeah, I just hope so. Hope it gets stuck in people's heads.
I think it will. I think we're good.
Excellent.
All right. Take it easy, Tyler.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate the time.
Anytime.